Women menstruating during the Victorian era. However, the menstrual experience was not just limited to cultural beliefs, but was also influenced by biology. Women in ancient times had fewer periods due to factors such as malnourishment or the earlier onset of menopause, with girls typically starting their periods at around 16 years old in 1750, compared to the average age of 12.6 years today. During the Victorian era, menstruating women were forced to wear war bandages of the same quality as soldiers, leading to uncomfortable and unsanitary conditions. To make matters worse, they also bled freely onto their elaborate and multi-layered Victorian dresses. Women at the time also wore split-crotch drawers, a primitive form of underwear that did little to alleviate their discomfort. Menstrual hygiene. Conversely, it's doubtful that wearing a pair of split crocs during your period will keep you safe. They may also employ a guard, which was just a napkin folded into the shape of a cravat and tied around the hips to form a T-shaped bandage. Patients talk about how often they change their bandages, which on days with less rain range from 12 to 20 times per day for some patients. Another option was to wear heavier petticoats in order to absorb any wetness. The Victorians were also notorious for their extreme concern for preserving personal cleanliness. They changed their underwear numerous times each day to prevent the stains created by sweat from spreading to the rest of their clothing. The majority of women encounter issues nowadays. Heavy bleeding was also seen as hazardous and needed the administration of purging medications and physical restrictions. Menstrual cramps were not formerly treated with any type of pain medication, since it was believed that they were a punishment for women. To treat a range of aches and pains, women commonly turned to herbal treatments. At first, it was widely thought that cramps could be treated by burning a toad and stowing the ashes in a sack around the waist. This was done in the anticipation that the ashes might offer some solace. In ancient Greece, women would tie small pieces of wood with lint and insert them into their bodies to simulate the effect of loose wood. The Chinese, on the other hand, would make menstrual pads by wrapping sand in a cloth. After use, they would dispose of the sand, wash the cloth, and reuse it the following month. According to folklore, if the blood from a young woman's first period was rubbed on the breasts, belly, and thighs of a lactating woman, it could prevent harm to her. Menstrual blood was also believed to have protective properties and was used to anoint infants. Egyptian women had a designated place called the Place of Women, separate from the rest of the village for their menstrual periods. They were said to have used papyrus, a thick paper commonly used for writing, as a sanitary pad. During the medieval era, women used rags, moss, or twigs as menstrual pads. Some women may have even used pieces of cloth as tampons, collected absorbent moss, or simply bled on their clothing. Due to the shame associated with menstruation, women may have carried scented herbs or flowers to mask the odor. The hard lives of medieval women, including heavy labor and limited sustenance, may have also contributed to fewer periods. Marie Antoinette, on the other hand, had her own luxurious version of pads made from expensive linen, kept in her private quarters. Buckets were also a convenient option for her during her periods. After cleansing, she would dispose of the period water by throwing it out the window, which was a common practice at the time. Women in Africa typically used scraps of clothing and river water for their menstrual periods. During this time, a wife was expected to sleep alone until her cycle was complete. Australian and African women. Women in Australia and Africa also utilized grass as a pad to absorb the flow, but this wasn't necessarily a healthy practice because the sharp, prickly grass in dry places is readily corrosive to the skin. Roman ladies would wrap up a bit of wool from a sheep and use it as a private wipe. Things were made considerably more difficult by the weight of the wool, and let's not forget that it must have smelled bad back in the pre-sanitary pad era. Sanitary belts. Women would switch to sanitary belts. The belts serve a similar purpose as diapers, with the exception that they include elastic belts so cotton pads may be fastened before usage. The belts were created in the 1800s and were widely used up until the 1970s, when a person discovered a way to remove the straps so that the belt could be worn without them. In those days, women who lived in colder areas relied on animal fur to keep their natural fluids from staining their clothing. Since colder places are plagued with ice and there are fewer resources available for survival, women utilized the fur of the animals they slaughtered to prevent this. Poor ladies did not use anything when they were menstruating. They simply bled wherever they were and did not care to cover it up. That is due to their lack of inventions and their poverty at the time. Poor women traditionally used nothing during their periods because there were no inventions at the time and people were impoverished. They would bleed wherever they were and made no attempt to conceal it. When medics tending to soldiers during World War I saw how wonderfully absorbent the cellulose they were used to bandage wounds was, they immediately started using this inexpensive and simple to dispose of material to absorb their blood. Dr. Earl Haas. Dr. Earl Haas produced the first acknowledged applicator tampon in 1929, ushering in a new approach to treating monthly menstruation. Tampons changed throughout time, with designs improving all the time, until it was eventually time for something even more hidden, owing to their smaller size and fat, applicator-free tampons, which were debuted in the 1990s. The world's most absorbent tampon was introduced by the consumer goods company Procter & Gamble in 1950, and it quickly gained popularity throughout Europe due to its ease of concealment in a handbag and its ability to be carried discreetly. However, the road to the ideal period products wasn't always easy. We are aware of how dangerous this can be today because in the 1970s it was made of a synthetic material and meant to be inserted and left in the vagina for the duration of a full period. P&G made the wise choice to take them off the market after the company dealt with more than 800 cases of TSS over the course of 5 years. The Hoosier belt was still in use during this time and even up until the 1980s, but by that point it had almost completely vanished as most women preferred new pads with sticky strips that made it easy to attach them to the inside of underwear. Because periods are now more openly accepted and discussed, sanitary devices are significantly safer and more effective than they were in the past. This is great news for us ladies. As a result, more innovative materials and designs are being used. Since there are fewer limitations placed on women by their periods than ever before, they are freer than ever to live their lives to the fullest. However, not all areas have seen an improvement in menstrual hygiene products, and the struggle against period poverty is still ongoing. We hope you enjoyed the video. So, what do you think of this? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Let us all thank you all for staying with us until the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up. To ensure you never miss a topic, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. Until next time, take care, stay peaceful, and have a fantastic day.